This is the first Tuesday of the month Waupaca City Council meeting.
Welcome everybody to our rescheduled City Council meeting. Today is Wednesday, November 7th, 2018. And I call this meeting to order. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll ask Sandy to read the open meeting statement for us.
This meeting and all other meetings of the Common Council are open to the public. Proper notice has been posted and given to the press in accordance with Wisconsin state statutes, so the citizens may be aware of the time, place, and agenda of this meeting.
And also take roll for us, Sandy.
Brian Smith.
Here.
Lori Chestnut. Here. Steve Hackett.
Here.
Paul Hagan.
Here.
Alan Keeland.
Here.
Scott Perchatsky.
Here.
Dave Peterson.
Here.
Paul Mayo.
Here.
Chuck Whitman.
Here.
Mary Fair. Here. And Eric Olson.
Here.
10 present. We have a quorum.
Awesome. Next up is the consent agenda. This is where we have items that we take one motion and vote on that one motion. Unless we have any items that you would like to see moved to the regular agenda where we would discuss and vote on those individually. Anybody want to have anything moved? If not, we need a motion to approve.
So move.
Second. Motion by Hackett, second by Keelan, that we approve the consent agenda as printed. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. The regular agenda. Sandy, you have a handout?
Under number 8, unfinished business, letter B, additional information was uploaded to the city website and also distributed this evening for the FY 2019 budget review. That's it.
Okay. I was wondering if we can't just take care of I guess we'll have to wait on those license reports because that's under a regular agenda. Can we move a?
You can move it.
Okay. How about if we take the license reports up, the first item that we do, those individuals are here tonight, and it should go fairly quick. I think it's 9A and B, right with that, Council? Besides that, you have that one handout and then that one and that change. We need a motion to approve then.
Move to approve as amended.
Second.
Motion by Keelan, second by Chestnut, that we approve the agenda as amended. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. All right, we are to announcements and correspondence. We, first of all, have to recognize years of service. This is a certificate of appreciation to Peg Burrington. She has been with the city for 20 years, and so we would like to present this certificate to her. Peg? Awesome, yeah. Oh, and then you came back again.
I came back.
You can give a speech if you want.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Well, thanks. All right, Henry, under public input, Henry has somebody that he would like to introduce that just wants to speak to us. So, Henry, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. We have David Fulmer. I always say the Waupaca area first responders, but I know you have another name, and I could never remember it. If you remember, in last year's budget, the City Council took the lead with the townships to provide some funding to this new operation to get them up and running, and David wanted to come in and give you kind of an update on where he's at with a group. So, David,
Basic, short,
can
and
you
simple.
speak to the podium? Yes,
Oh,
thank you.
sorry. Everywhere else I've been, I haven't had to speak into a microphone. So essentially, over the past year, we have been working very hard on a subject that's been near and dear to myself. I've been trying to get this group back up and running from where it had been a few years ago. And through a lot of help, especially from Henry and the city, we have gotten it back up and running fully, fully insured, fully planned through the state and federal. We are running through the city of Waupaca, the townships of Farmington, Dayton, and the city of Waupaca. We are here to help Gold Cross Ambulance and any mutual aid that may come into the area. We are the first responders that come to help them out. Essentially, we're just a third hand for them, and it's an incredible help for any ambulance service, as I come from the Iola Ambulance Service, and we have our own first responders up there. So we are 6 members deep right now. We are funded mostly through the cities and townships that help us out. We also have some donations and funding, and we will be running our own fundraisers. Hopefully, coming up this next year, we have a few planned, few plans for smaller items and one larger fundraiser that we'd like to do later in the fall. So that's pretty much where we're at right now. Like I said, fully up and running, pretty well spread out through the area. So.
Thanks, Dave. Do you guys keep track of your calls? And
Yes, yes, we do. Yep.
Is that something that you can share with us in the future? You know, maybe
We can share a number of calls that we've been to in the areas that you've been in, or the areas we've made calls to.
Yeah.
Is that what you're looking for? Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
I
Yep.
mean, especially within the fire district area
Right,
would
yep.
be great.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I mean, and you could just send them to Henry. That would be great.
Okay, absolutely. No,
Yeah.
not a problem.
Anybody have any questions of David? Dave, I have to really appreciate that you've taken this and ran with it. I know that our ambulance service is quite a bit different than it has been in the past when we had a local ambulance service.
Yes.
And this is something that really fits in between that, and
Yes.
we really appreciate that. So,
Absolutely.
thanks.
Thank you.
All right, under any other public input, is there anybody in the audience that would like to, or members of council that would like to speak on a non-agenda item? Lori?
Hi, I would just like to say thank you to Sandy and her whole crew for taking care of the election. Did another great job, and it's really nice to see all the smiling faces and so many people so willing to help people. Thank you.
You must have been there early.
No, I was there. Yeah. No, I was there later. I was there a little later, and they were still smiling.
All right, thank you for that. Anybody else? Steve?
I just wanted to say something for Justin, Roger, and his crew. The Public Works Department is doing a fantastic job. My wife and I were just sitting in our dining room having our breakfast, and the guys came by to pick up the leaves, and my gosh, did they work hard. And I just thought, they are good, hard workers all the time, but they don't get the recognition as much as they do. So I just wanted to say thank you, let the guys know that they're doing a fantastic job.
You're very welcome. And they listen, so they will hear this.
Well, they'll be there tomorrow again, Steve.
Oh, good, good. I got a pile out there for them again.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Anything else for public input? All right, let's move on. This is the item that I was talking about that we would move up. This is under new business, 9A and 9B go hand in hand, right? Those are the two that go together. This has to do with, well, 9A is a license report number 1422. This is a Class B intoxicating liquor license and Class B fermented malt beverage license. It's just being transferred from one agent to another because of a sale, and that's the Crystal Lounge. So we're looking for approval there, although the owner is in the audience, so you want to take this opportunity to speak to us or at all about it? This is your chance to get free advertising here. So.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kanwal Singh. So I'm Paul's brother. You guys probably know Paul. I was here last year, so I took over on the Citgo gas station that's on the Fulton Street. I've been blessed. This town has been really good to me, and there was an opportunity to acquire Crystal Lounge. Julie is looking to retire, so very excited about the opportunity. And yeah, let me know if you guys have any question. My main goal is the business is going to stay as it is. Over time, incremental improvements. That's it.
Name? Going to keep it the same?
Yes, it will be Crystal Lounge, not Julie's Crystal Lounge, just Crystal Lounge. And the legal entity is Waupaca's Crystal Lounge. I'm not really good creative with names.
Sometimes that's good, though. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Any questions? All right. So we're looking to approve this transfer, which is license report 1422.
Make that into a motion.
Second.
Motion by Chuck, second by Paul Hagan, that we approve license report 1422. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. And then just to go along with this, license report 1423, which is their arcade amusement device license, and we'd be looking for a motion to approve that also.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Hackett, second by Chestnut, that we approve license report 1423. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Good luck to you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
All right, let's go back then to unfinished business. This is Justin. This is ordinance 1318, and it's our second reading, so be prepared to vote on this.
Yes, it is. Thank you very much, Mayor. So this is an ordinance that will reflect a change on our official traffic map. So we need an ordinance adoption in order to make that change official and legal. And what this is just cleaning up the sign changes. The first one was the Jefferson and Union Street here. With the recent project, the stop signs have changed orientation. So they were on Union Street going east-west. Now we flip them to be on Jefferson Street with controlling north and south. And that was done basically to try and slow the traffic coming in and out of the parking lot down. So that was the one change. And while I was looking at that, I found another, I guess, sign change that was missed several years ago. The Royalton and Churchill intersection, the T intersection by the new Dollar General, the signals were removed, stop signs were installed, and that change was never adopted on the official sign map. So this, I guess, vote tonight would make those two intersections signage legal.
Okay, any comments? Did you receive any comments, Justin, at all?
I have not. No.
Office, clerk's office, or anybody? Okay. We'd be looking for a motion to approve this ordinance then.
Move to approve resolution number 1419.
Ordinance, or 1318.
1318, sorry.
I'll second.
Motion by Olson, second by Peterson, that we approve ordinance 1318. It's an ordinance amending the official traffic map of the city of Waupaca, Wisconsin by installing stop signs. And this is the second reading, so we plan on adopting that. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. All right, thank you, Justin. All right, let's move on to why we're all here tonight, the Kathy show here. It's fiscal 2019 budget review. Kathy.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to start out tonight with the capital improvement borrowing. I have Justin Fisher here from R.W. Baird, our city financial advisor, to go over the borrowing portion of it. But my first presentation, we had over $2 million worth of projects slated to start for 2019. And we worked with the mayor to reduce those projects down to a borrow of $1,550,000. And on the packet, that was added early this week was the projects under the GEO bonds, which is the phone system upgrade, the continuing of the Main Street reconstruction, engineering and design, the engineering and design for Granite Street, but that should also include, Justin has decided to bid also the downtown alley reconstruction and the paving of the north end city parking lot at the same time. So we're hoping that $40,000 that we have for engineering and design will be able to handle all those projects. Evans Street reconstruction has been reduced to $640,000. We're going to be doing a joint project with the town of Waupaca on a seal coating of Apple Tree and Farm Drive for $25,000. And then there's $230,000 for the purchase of Midtown Motors and $160,000 for replacing a snow blower. And the final number is $300,000 for the start of the Public Works garage, the start of a salt shed. So we'll be doing some design and engineering and the start of the construction late in 2019 of the salt shed. So we've reduced the number of projects that were originally in the proposal. And one, because Baird has tried with the different financing to make sure that our tax levy rate for debt service does not go up. So to get the financing that we're looking at for those projects, we pretty much worked with Baird to see whether or not continuing going to the state trust fund loan program or going out to the market. And I'm going to let Justin take over on the borrowing part of it, and then get back on the smaller equipment and line of credit that's on a proposal.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks, Kathy, and thanks for having me here tonight. So this is more of an update on kind of where we are. Kathy and I have been doing a lot of planning, future planning for the city, knowing that there's capital improvement projects that need to be done, and also some one-time kind of larger capital improvement projects. And how does that all fit into the city's overall tax rate, tax levy, and so forth? So I'll just kind of run through the presentation that I handed out, and stop me if you have any questions as I'm running through it. But the first page, if you flip to it, is really just a market update of where interest rates have gone over the past year. As many of you are aware, the economy is doing pretty well, and so you've seen the Fed increase their rates. You've seen inflation starting to creep up. We're hearing that the Fed may increase it a few more times next year, and it's reflective in these interest rates that you're seeing on this page. They've gone up, but historically speaking, they're still at pretty low rates. But when you look at it versus the financing that we did earlier this year, interest rates have gone up. So if you go to page 2 of the presentation, this is just to lay out what may possibly occur based on the capital improvement projects Kathy's talking about. So if we were to finance the different variety of capital improvement projects Kathy discussed, this would be a general obligation promissory note in the amount of $1,555,000 for the 2019 capital improvement projects. It'd be a 10-year financing maturing March 1 of 2020 through 2029, with the first interest payment being in March 1 of 2020.
Justin, can you just back up just 1 second?
Yeah.
Just to explain what a general obligation note is.
Yeah, so anything that's general obligation is essentially supported by the city with tax levy. You have different types of bonds you can issue. You can issue general obligation debt, or you can issue revenue debt. Revenue debt is not city-supported debt service. And so this particular bond issue is going to be city-supported debt service. Sam?
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. So again, the call date on this particular bond issue, that's going to be determined. We're going to look at that as we get closer to entering the market to see what we can get, because we want the shortest prepayment feature possible for you to have the ability to refinance or pay down debt and so forth. So that's something we'll evaluate as we get closer to conducting the sale. And then the estimated interest rate at this point, we just put in there at a 3.75%, which should be conservative. The tentative timeline would be today we just discussed the financing and really kind of lay the pipe work for what's going to occur over the next several months. As we continue to get closer, we will be kind of going through the same process as we did earlier this year, where we'll be working with Kathy and her team to put together an offering document, potentially going out for a bond credit rating, and then doing the marketing for the bonds. Come March 5th of 2019 is when I'll be back here to present the final results of the general obligation promissory notes that locks in the interest rates for the bond issue. And then the bond issue would close April 1 of 2019. So we have a few months before all this takes place, but it's really just to let you know what's coming down in the next few months. So if you go to page 3 of the presentation, this is what Kathy and I have been working on pretty extensively, going back and forth with different projects. What does it look like? How does it affect the city? And so you can really see that we've taken the approach of what is the city's outstanding tax-supported debt service on the left side of the page? What would it look like if we were to do these borrowings that are in the capital improvement plan, reducing it down a little bit? And you can see that based on these type of borrowings, how it affects your combined debt service on the right side of the page, and also how it affects the combined potential mill rate. There's a lot of assumptions that go into this when you're talking mill rate, because the growth, what's the growth going to look like? Is there going to be growth and so forth? What is the TIDS going to do? Are we going to be able to close some tax increment districts and so forth? But at least this gives us a plan to say, how are we going to potentially fund that larger project in 2023? And is the city going to be able to finance that and not be in a tough financial position? So if you go to page 4 of the presentation, this kind of gives you more of a visual how it's going to look when you layer in the different bond issues and the debt service payments. So the gray bars are the existing debt service, and then you can see how it's layering in the future bond issues. So then page 5 of the presentation just kind of gives you comfort, I guess you could say, that by doing these borrowings and funding these capital improvement projects that you'll see in the community, you are still going to adhere to your city policy, which is 3.75% of your equalized valuation. So taking on these borrowings, you're still going to adhere to your debt management policy.
Which is also much more conservative than the state limits that we have. The state limit is 5% of our
Yes.
equalized value. So we're even more constringent than the state is.
Great. Any questions of Justin? Understand. I think the key here obviously is to keep the debt service the same, but still be able to borrow money and do the projects that we need to keep moving forward. So I think it's great. I'm glad that we have Baird to work with us to give us second eyes on this, quite honestly, and to add your expertise to that. So appreciate that.
And this is still just a plan. This, if during the approval process of the budget, we have these projects out there for council approval yet. On the 20th of November, within the final budget, if there's a project that you're not looking at, want to do, then that would be the time to pull it, and we would adjust the financing from there. But one of the things that we had to look at is the 2018 kind of like equipment purchases, like the squad cars and the items that are on the next page of my memo. It says FSB line of credit. The stuff that we couldn't fit in our operating budget, we kind of were financing those with state trust fund loans of 1 or 2 year duration because it was more favorable. Well, they've raised the rates. And so they are now at 4.25% for a 2 to 5 year note and 4.5% on a 6 to 10 year note. So the trust fund loan, it's not a viable alternative. So we went to what the state trust fund said we should be looking at is our local banks. And I've contacted JP Morgan Chase, Bank First, Farmers State Bank, and BMO Harris, all that I know that will do some financing for municipalities, and came up with an option of a $500,000 line of credit, fixed term for 5 years at a fixed rate. What I'm looking at with this financing vehicle is that we would just borrow what we need for that year's short-term monies. Not that these are items that are useful life is less than what we normally borrow in 10 years. So this is the squad cars. They have 3-year lives. So we would just do these, again, like putting it on the credit card, go 13 months and then pay it off. So I'm looking at this as a revolving line of credit. And I had pretty much Bank First and Farmers State Bank give me that option. And we would have the interest semi-annually, and we would, like I said, pay the principal the following year. This, like I said, helps finance those small items and also give us some another option should we have a issue with, like we ran in this year, where we've borrowed the money and then didn't have enough because bids came in. So we are looking at setting up one, and the favorable rates that I had gotten was with Farmers State Bank, and it would be a recommendation to use that line of credit to borrow, pretty much put $172,477 on the credit card for the 2018 projects that have been approved and pretty much purchased by staff for the 2018 with this line of credit. So I would want part of the recommendation tonight would be is to set up that line of credit with that item. So I don't know, Mayor, do you want me to wait till the end of?
No, we can take care of that. Does anybody have any questions on what she's talking about with the line of credit and the use for it? And there is an advantage for us to do it this way too. I can't remember. Can you explain that, or is it?
The advantage is that I can do two things. I can borrow it as I need it when you approve that item and pull the money from that line of credit. I also can pay it after 13 months with debt service, so with debt service levy. So it's very flexible for us. The $500,000, if you look at that second page of that line of credit items, we'll never have 500,000 out there. So it's just that this is the level that they're looking at. And if is that we decide not to pay that off, then we'll look at it. But it's more of a timing issue and the flexibility that we have with the line of credit.
Okay, but what you are requesting is that we set up the line of credit for up to $500,000, but we're also going to use that line of credit.
We're going to be using that line of credit right away for the 2018 project.
And almost up to that full amount, too.
Well, we're looking at probably if 19's would be approved, then yes, we would be almost up to that total 500,000.
All right.
Because it's 156,000 that we'll be putting on that line of credit during 19.
Okay. All right, so the motion, if you're okay with this, council, should be that we approve entering into a line of credit agreement with Farmer State Bank for an amount up to, not to exceed $500,000, and that we authorize that we use that money to pay for capital expenditures for 2018 and 2019.
Question?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Is there a fee associated with maintaining the line of credit, Kathy?
Farmers is waiving it, and all we have to do is pay the initial startup, which is $500.
Good question. Scott?
Kathy, is this did they guarantee they would work with us for 5 years? Is that what I'm reading here? Or
They
how
will
is this-
lock the rate
Lock the rate for 5
for 5 years at 4%.
Oh,
Where, BMO
Yeah.
was 2 to 3 basis points over the everyday rate. So that was fluctuable. And then
Yeah.
Justin recommended that we take the fixed rate because it looks much better for us for a credit rating.
Yeah, I mean, when the bond credit rating looks at that and they see a variable, their heads would spin. So, yeah, going with the fixed was much more conservative and predictable.
Yeah, thanks.
And like I said, I'm locking in much lower than even the state trust fund loan was. So,
Okay. Great.
Any other questions? Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll put that in the form of a motion.
Motion by Keelan,
Second.
second by Lori Chestnut, that we enter into a line of credit agreement with Farmer State Bank for an amount not to exceed $500,000. It's a 5-year agreement with a fixed rate of 4%, and that we also allow to borrow that $500,000 to take care of some capitals that's listed for 2018 and 2019 capital. Got all that, Sandy?
I do.
All right. Any further discussion? Sandy will call the roll.
Scott Perchatsky,
Aye.
Steve Hackett,
Aye.
Paul Hagan,
Aye.
Chuck Whitman,
Aye.
Lori Chestnut,
Aye.
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
Mary Fair,
Aye.
Alan Keeland,
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
and Eric Olson.
Aye.
10 ayes, motion carried.
All right.
second phase.
Okay. Go for it.
The second part is what I handed out tonight, which is the 2019 proposed budget. The first page is the public hearing notice that will be published in the paper and posted in 4 places in the city. This is all of the funds, the general fund, and all of the special revenue funds and debt service funds that have budgets. So it's a lot of numbers. Instead, I'm going to go to the next page. This is the levy by fund, and right now, our proposed levy is going down by $68,854. We're going to look at a levy of $3,249,109. As you can see, since 2017, we've been reducing the levy each year, and the levy's gone down. We are looking at reducing the library tax levy support by $13,000 and debt service by $64,000. Well, decrease in the tax levy for the library is that they have $26,000 of additional funding that they're getting from the county. And as a special revenue fund, we need to make sure that we maintain less than 50% of tax levy support so that they can stay a special revenue fund. The debt service levy, I'm reducing the tax levy by using some additional residual funds that we have within the fund from previous tax levies that weren't used for debt service. And I had showed you last time that we had about $120,000 that we could use for paying off additional debt. Instead, I'm reducing it to like $60,000 and still paying off some of the debt. And this is also attributed to the fact that we did do that refinancing of a lot of the outstanding debt for the general fund this year. So the better interest rates has helped us to be able to reduce the debt service levy. The next page is, right now, what the city's tax rate calculation looks like. The Waupaca County levy has not been released, and this is just an estimate based on their budget proposal and our county apportionment percentage of that levy. They're looking at a rate of about $7.20. Our city levy, it would be $9.66. The Waupaca School District, I've received their levy, and their rate would be $11.38, and the technical college of $1.11. The school levy tax credit has not been released by the Department of Revenue. Not receive that information until November 15th. So at our November 20th meeting, I will have more firmer dollars. One of the things that I want to highlight is the fact that our value of equalized value to assessed value is under 100% and above 90. So we aren't required to start looking for doing a revaluation, but we're at 95.26%. Sorry, 95.29% of fair market to equalize. So what it looks like is that the state's estimate of your fair market value of your property is more than what we're assessing you by. The next page shows the comparison of the 2017 tax rate to the 2018 tax rate. And the city is out in the middle in the yellow. One of the things that is important to realize in 2018's tax bill is that the city has lost $9.8 million worth of assessed value. A lot of this has to do with the state's changeover with personal property taxes. They've removed the taxation of personal property. They froze it at last year's level. However, when people reported it, they changed their reporting on some of their equipment and made it exempt, and we aren't getting the full value being reimbursed by the state. So we've lost almost $10 million worth of value. That is driving the rate of your tax rate, the tax rate up. Even though our levy would look like it's going down, it's going up. Based on discussions from the school district, their levy went up, and so the county's rate is going up. So we're looking right now at possibly a 75-cent per mill rate increase. However, the city's portion is going down a penny because we are reducing our levy amount, so that the impact is not based on the city's levy. The TIF, as you also can see, the TIF levy included in above is also down by almost $50,000. So the TIFs, by closing 7 and by closing 5 the following year, this will continue to reduce. I do not have the new first dollar credit or the lottery credit numbers. Those are also due out on November 15th. So going forward, I have little breakdowns of the general fund revenues and expenditures, a graphic that shows where all of our money is coming from and where all of our money is going for in our operating budget. Public safety is the big one in expenditures. The next one is public works. And for our main sources of revenue are property taxes and intergovernmental revenues. The next page is what our expenditure restraint program budget looks like. We had to make sure to qualify, our budget has to be at a less than 2.7% increase, excluding the transfer for debt service levy. And to do that, I have put in a contingency of $169,069 to make it balance to the maximum for that program. That's just, and then that's showing that really what we're doing is pulling about $300,000 if we did all of that from reserves for fund balance. I've also included a transfer to the transit fund to cover their negative cash balance of $121,000. That's included in the transfer to other funds, no debt service. So that $117,000 includes that $121,000 in transfer to make that fund solvent. The next page is just a summary of the general fund and the departments and where they all line up. As you can see, most of the departments have held their line items to where it's been able to handle this budget. Then after that, I have all of the different funds. I can go through each fund. We have the hotel motel tax. Most of the funds, 70% of those funds go to the Convention and Visitors Bureau for expenditures for tourism. And then the $73,000 is going back to the general fund. We have been seeing an uptick in our hotel motel tax. So that's been very, very good. The airport fund, next page, is continuing to just make ends meet. It does need to look at revenue sources, either raising the rents for hangars or being more aggressive on the fuel sales. So we do need to continue to monitor the airport fund. The next fund is the transit fund, and this shows the transfer in to handle the deficit that's in this fund because of shortage in federal funding and to make it balance. We are looking at a new contract this year, and this does include the federal share of replacement of a bus. So the federal share is in here in this fund, and the city's portion is in the capital improvement fund. The library fund is been what has been gone through from the library board, and this includes their increase in their revenues and their expenditures. The next one is the Adult Recreation Program Fund. This is just for adult ones, and it's supposed to be self-supported, and it is. In fact, it has some additional funds that we transfer to the general fund for covering some of the administration of this program. Debt service is the next fund, and that pretty much covers all of our debt service, principal and interest for the next year that is due. And as you can see, there is some residual funds still in that fund that will help us in the future should we need to look at using it for paying outstanding debt. Capital Projects Funds covers the items, the projects that were presented tonight under the financing program. We're looking at $1.7 million worth of projects with small equipment, and continue to do each of the projects that the departments have provided. TIF districts. The TIF districts are in good shape. TIF District 4 and 6 will have additional funds remaining. They won't need to be using it to pay off any outstanding debt because of the refinancing that we did this year. So the TIF districts are starting to look balance sheet wise in a better place. 19 will be the last year we have an increment for 5, and we'll be closing and doing the final accounting next year. And then we will be looking at possibly in 2020 or in 2021 and closing anywhere from 2 to 4 TIF districts. Next one is the water utility. And I think on the 20th, I'm going to do a little bit more on the water utility. We did have a financial analysis done on the water and sewer utilities, and I'm going to put a summary together for the council with budget presentation on the 20th. I just didn't have time to do it this time, but one of the recommendations from that was to continue to do a 3% rate increase each year until the water meter project was completed, and then go out and do full rate case at that time. And I believe that was going to be in 2020 or 2021 that they recommended. I had Baker Tilly come in and do that study for us. Same thing with the sewer utility. There's no plan increase in the rates for the sewer utility. I believe that they're getting to be in a better place because of financing the outstanding debt that was out there. So, and then Waupaca Online. Josh is doing great. We're looking at adding with the grant the additional services outside in the county. And so this fund is in good financial position. And that's all I have. If anybody I know it's a lot, and I'm willing to answer any questions before the 20th. When I bring this back again for final recommendations, but.
Okay, great. I just want to make a couple of comments, and maybe they have questions in them too, Kathy, but I didn't want to interrupt you, but as we go through this, I always like to remind council of what we're talking about when we talk about the levy and then also the mill rate. the levy, of course, is what we tax the total tax that we tax our residents of Waupaca, and the mill rate is actually what you're paying per $100,000, right? Is that right? Per $100,000 on your house, so you can calculate that out based on your $1 million house, Steve. And so that will help you. You can see that the mill rate has actually went down a penny, and I wish we could go back a little bit further. Henry and I are kind of discussing that too, because I don't know how far we can go back, but we were in the
Which year would you like
12,
to do?
yeah, I mean, I think we can go back and it was as high as $12. So we've been able to, I mean, with the reval, but also with being really kind of frugal without raising taxes, we've been able to lower that mill rate, so.
The highest rate was in 2011. It was $13.59.
Yeah, so you can see there's a huge, multiply that out, and it's a huge deduction, so, you know, and we've been able to continue, give our employees raises, and maintain our equipment, and I think that's good, all for the good of the city, no doubt. Now I can't even read my own writing here. Under the, I just wanted to mention about the airport board, Paul, we are going to have to work with the airport board and come up with some solutions so that fund balance does stay above what we're actually taxing for to help there too, so. And that's true with the transit, and that's true, you know, with the library, all of those funds, we want to make sure that we are not taxing more than 50%, did you say again?
Right.
Okay, so, but the airport is our biggest concern right now. So we'll be working with your board to make sure that we stay there. This is probably a question, Henry, you probably don't want to hear, but looking at the Waupaca online utility, that retained earnings or the fund balance at the end of the year for the Waupaca online, you're projecting it to be about $156,000. Is there any plans for that $156,000?
Josh has not said anything.
Okay. So, I mean, those are, I don't, you know, just like anything else, you want to keep a certain amount in reserves, but keeping too much in reserves is not always necessarily the best thing to do either. So we should look at that account too. It's wonderful that it's doing well, but we should actually use that to maybe help us in other areas too. So it's not a bad idea. Okay, any other questions or comments about the budget? Again, this is, we're treating this, although it is not an ordinance, we're treating it as the first reading of the resolution for the budget that we'll be voting on the 20th. Technically, we need to vote on it on the 20th, otherwise we'll have to have a special meeting, because I think the county likes to see that before December 1st, right? Yeah. So be prepared to vote, hopefully, listen to the residents, ask questions of Kathy and department heads too. I think they have a pretty good grasp of what their budgets are, so. Okay? Questions? All right, great job, Kathy, thank you. Justin, thank you. Drive safe if you are heading out, appreciate it. Okay, we did 9A and B, so we're down to, under new business, we're under resolution number 1419, and that's you, Justin, also.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Mayor, once again. This is the final resolution authorizing the sidewalk assessments for the City Hall Square project. So the sidewalks have all been placed. They've all been measured, and as you can see on excuse me, my computer is not quite working here. On
106.
page 107, well, starts, 106 is the resolution wording, and 107 is the actual assessment. So, getting back to it, yeah, so the sidewalks were measured, and what's shown on the assessment is the actual assessment to these property owners, and everything came in very close to what we estimated at the beginning of the project when this was first brought forward to you before construction started. So, so this is just a vote on approving this and carrying these assessments onto the properties listed on page 107.
Move to approve. Second. Motion by Mayo, second by Olson, that we approve of the resolution 1419 to assess these property owners for the sidewalk improvements made. Any discussion? Sandy will call the roll.
Chuck Whitman,
Aye.
Mary Fair,
Aye.
Paul Hagan,
Aye.
Steve Hackett,
Aye.
Alan Keeland,
Aye.
Eric Olson,
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
Lori Chestnut,
Aye.
Paul Mayo,
Aye.
and Scott Perchatsky.
Aye.
10 ayes, motion carried.
Thank you, Justin. I do have one question for you. I should have asked you, but, so the way this is handled is that the businesses get assessed this dollar amount, and if they choose to pay it in full, they go ahead and pay it in full, but if not, they would have the opportunity to pay that over, is this one of those, over 7 years?
Yes, but it depends on the amount of assessment. So it is due within 30 days if it's under $100. We do not have any of those. If it's between $100 and $500, then they have 5 years or 5 installments to pay that. Anything above $500, they have 7 years or 7 installments to pay that off. So
It should probably be based on their revenue that they're taking in on their buildings. Never mind. Go. All right, thank you. Let's move on then to the certified survey map for the Go Right Way Transportation Group. Brennan.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. This item starts on page 108 of your packet. This is the proposed CSM for the Go Right bus garage that's being located within the city's industrial park. The proposed CSM, as you can see on page, probably the illustrative drawing on page 111, this parcel will be located at the off of Godfrey Drive at the end of Industrial Drive. It encompasses approximately 5 acres for the total development. The CSM was reviewed at the Planning Commission in September and recommended for approval to the Common Council. In October, the Planning Commission did approve the site plan for the bus garage, and we are currently working through the engineering review of this. You can see on the illustrated drawing, there is an existing easement driveway that actually services property in the town of Waupaca for Denise Gall. If you look at the yellow box on the illustrated drawing, that is an outlot that will be created about 15 feet wide, which would be the new access to that property in the rear. As part of the overall site development, because of the amount of buses that were going to be leaving the garage, we wanted to try to align the driveway exiting out of the site with Industrial Drive, basically kind of creating almost a 4-way stop at that at Godfrey Industrial. That caused us to have to relocate that driveway, and we are currently working with Denise Gall to prepare those documents. That will be an easement agreement that will come back in front of the Common Council at a future meeting. Otherwise, we're looking for approval of the CSM this evening, and I believe we are looking to close next week on the property as well as they want to start construction.
All right, and the Planning Commission unanimously recommended this to council.
Yep.
Okay, so we'd be looking for a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Keelan, second by Fair, that we approve certified survey map for Go Right Way Transportation Group. Discussion? Sandy will call the roll.
Lori Chestnut,
Aye.
Paul Hagan,
Aye.
Alan Keeland,
Aye.
Chuck Whitman,
Aye.
Mary Fair,
Aye.
Steve Hackett,
Aye.
Scott Perchatsky,
Aye.
Eric Olson,
Aye.
Dave Peterson,
Aye.
and Paul Mayo.
Aye.
10 ayes, motion carried.
Thank you, Brenna.
Thank you.
All right, Henry, we have a recommendation on one of our staffers here.
Yes, sir. The memo is on page 112. It's pretty self-explanatory. Andrew is being recommended to regular full-time status from probationary status. If you remember, he served about 3 months as interim director when his predecessor resigned. I don't know that I need to go in publicly about my observation of Andrew's performance during the last 5 months as the director, other than to say he's transitioned very well. The statement about being well regarded by subordinates and others in the organization is accurate because I've talked to a lot of different people. And I think he's doing a great job. And I'd like to recommend him 1 month early for status as permanent part-time.
Full-time.
Or permanent full-time, sorry.
Jesus, that's kind of a...
Well, I almost got through it. I'm sorry, Andrew.
That's all right.
Permanent, full-time.
All right, do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second. A motion by Olson, second by Peterson, that we take the probationary off of Andrew's position. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. All right, thank you, Henry. Next, we have License Report 1425. That's on page 113. Those are, again, just operator's license. There's one on there, it looks like there's pending money owed, but otherwise, looking for approval of those.
Move to approve.
I'm sorry, who said that?
I did.
Oh, motion by Keelan, second by Hackett, that we approve the license report 1425. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Okay, communications, recommendations of the mayor. Justin, do you want to just mention your meeting that you have next Thursday?
Sure thing. So next Thursday and November 15th, let me take a second if I can pull it up here so I can make sure I get it right. Shoot. We're having the public information meeting at Evans Street next Thursday at 6 p.m. at the Emmanuel Lutheran Church on Evans Street. So 6 p.m. So anybody who would like to attend is more than welcome. It's open to the public, and we'll be reviewing a number of things about the project. In particular, the cross section of the roadway has been kind of the hot topic, whether or not we're going to do sidewalks or not. So we'll be reviewing that. Also talking about personal driveways, access, possibility of doing temporary construction easements, and then also probably looking at some tree removal. So we'll be discussing all those topics next Thursday.
Awesome. Brennan, go ahead.
I guess we're having 2 meetings on Thursday for the community. Just want to inform the council and the public as well. Our branding and wayfinding consultants will be in next week. They are coming in Wednesday and will be staying through Sunday. On Thursday night as well, on November 15th from 5:30 to 7:30 over at the Waupaca, Par 4 Resort. We'll be having a public meeting where we're inviting all residents and business owners to come out and get an update on our branding and wayfinding initiative that we're in partnership with the Waupaca Chamber of Commerce, and there will be activities that evening as well to partake in, and there will be a cash bar and light appetizers that evening for the event. So,
All right, great. Anybody else have any other public announcements for us? Andrew, do you want to just touch on the Halloween night? And I heard it went really well, and I know this isn't our normal thing, but it
I'd love to, Mayor. Thank you.
Yeah.
Our Halloween party
did very well, actually, this year. We had some new things that Cassandra added, and one of those was pictures up on the stage with families. And I think they took 163 pictures. Now, some of those may have been doubles, but I would say around 150 at least families. So you take about 3 people to each one of those. The whole place was packed inside and out, and you know, we do that, and we partnership with the county and some other people to make this happen. And it's a free community event, and it really is one of our most popular and one of our best events that we have. So
Awesome.
Good.
Yeah, it was awesome, yeah.
Mayor, in the spirit of announcements,
Henry, go ahead.
I'd like to turn it over to Sandy, because we had a phenomenal day at the polls yesterday, and I think I'd like to recognize, as it's been already said, but I know she can give the statistics off the top of her head.
Waupaca showed up to vote. We had 2,341 voters, which was 80% turnout, and we registered 291 new voters. It was great. Busy.
Absolutely.
And I wasn't cranky. She was good.
I
didn't have to
I think one of
So that's the way you always treat me, or?
I was busy.
Okay. All right, anything else? Motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Paul Hagan, second by Alan Keelan, that we adjourn till our next regular scheduled meeting, which is Tuesday, November 20th, 6 p.m., subject to call. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Against? Motion carried. Have a great night.